Hello everybody, thank you for joining us today. I hope everybody is safe and sound and you follow all the regulation and yourself and your families are all safe. This is the most important thing. Today we are holding a webinar on bot management. Why is there a buzz and do I need it? My name is Ben Zilberman. I'm a product marketing manager for application security here at Radware. And in this session, we will talk about automated threats as well as our annual study of bot traffic and malicious bot attacks. As you know, automation evolved rapidly and bots today represent nearly half of the total internet traffic. All business units rely on bots to accelerate productivity, but some malicious ones carry out cyber attacks. In this session, we will look into the research and the bot behaviors to learn how to identify the intent of the bot, whether good or bad, while maintaining business continuity and customer experience. These are the topics that we will cover today. First, we'll analyze the big bad bot problem. Then we'll look into some verticals with some insights. We will explore a couple of case studies, real-life challenges of businesses with bots and how they overcame it. And before wrapping up, we'll talk a little bit about what we do in the space and how we can help. First, the automated threat landscape. Let's see what our study says about bad bots. What do they do? How? What's the impact on our business? We'll try to answer all these. First of all, the bot management challenge is now considered, if you follow major analyst firms such as Gartner, Forrester, and others, as a growing concern under application security. Indeed, web application firewalls who protect apps from common vulnerabilities such as the OWASP top 10 are limited with their ability to fully detect the intent of a malicious bot, and we'll explain why, as well as to fully secure APIs from abuse or to protect applications from different forms of application layer denial of service. So, according to Gartner, all application security solutions today have to be able to protect the application from all these aforementioned threats. And what you see here are just a few examples of publicly available cases that were published where applications were breached by either a bot or compromised by another exploit or through the API and so on. So all these vectors be taken into account. Obviously, today we are focusing on bot attacks. So other than the notorious top 10 application vulnerability list, the OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project organization, has also compiled a list of bot attacks that can be grouped into 6 principal use cases. Account takeover, that can come in many forms, such as credential stuffing, credential cracking, brute force, account creation, and more. For benefiting access to data or resources for the hackers. Then there are different forms of web scraping, bots just running through a website or a mobile app, copying intellectual property, stealing price information, and more. Denial of inventory, bots acting as faux buyers, holding real users from being able to make online purchases. Denial of service, either volumetric or low and slow attacks aiming to disrupt the service and exhaust application resources. We see a lot of payment data abuse, carding frauds, online trade, where illegitimate payment information is being used. And then the last one is skewed marketing analytics, different forms of click fraud, ad scraping, and campaign poisoning in order to thwart marketing efforts and lead marketing teams to take wrong decisions based on false information. In recent years, we have noticed bots gradually evolve from the basic scripts to large-scale distributed bots with sophisticated human-like interaction capabilities to evade detection mechanisms. The latest breed of bots have advanced human-like interaction characteristics such as moving the mouse pointer in a random human-like pattern instead of straight lines, for example, typing characters and erasing them, and other mechanisms that we use in order to avoid the security, or to bypass the security solutions. These bots also are massively distributed across tens of thousands of IP addresses, or worse, device IDs, to overcome fingerprinting technologies. And this is exactly where web application firewalls may be obsolete in detection. So detecting these bots based on just shallow interaction characteristics will result in a high number of false positives, and the challenge that businesses are facing is to detect the most sophisticated bots with high accuracy, and that enforces very large data of bot behaviors and patterns and fingerprints and threat intelligence that can make that correlation between this single interaction attempt or deception attempt to multiple events over time. Example of a typical distributed bot which rotates its IP addresses and user agents. Each cluster is a set of user agents and IP subnets. All IPs come from a single ISP, but using different user agents in rotation to evade the detection of the security solution and perform account takeover attacks in this case. The reason behind using only one ISP is that a large number of legitimate users cannot be blocked that are also coming from that ISP, and bots are hiding behind those genuine users, which make the detection challenge and the IP-based blocking ineffective in this case. Remember that bots utilize all communication channels to target our data, whether it's on a web server, mobile app, or via an API. So that was the big bad bot business problem, and now let's see what we have learned from our annual research. Highlights, and obviously I encourage you to go and download the full report from our website, radware.com. So first, we see that the bot traffic has grown at the expense of human traffic. Second, the portion of bad bots has increased 20% year over year. So we see more bad bots, more bots, but within the bot traffic, there's more weight to bad bots. Now, without even talking about security or threats or the impact, just think how much you could save on public cloud consumption, or if you didn't have to buy that bigger firewall or load balancer, if you had just reduced your traffic by 20%, just 24.5%. If you could just eliminate a quarter of your traffic, all the bad bots, how much you could save. We also see seasonality in bot traffic. When the Christian holiday season comes, it brings with it many business opportunities to cyber criminals looking for profit. Payment fraud, account takeover, ticket and inventory scalping, cart abandonment, and all these attacks come to prey the shopping sites. And this is very evident among our customer base. What you see in the chart is that the bot traffic in Q4 is much higher compared to the rest of the year. Bad bots leverage proxy servers to disguise identity and misrepresent their location or regions. What we see in our customer base is that in 2019, 42% of the bad bots originated from the US. That's an increase from 2019. Again, remember that it reflects our customer base and takes into consideration some spoofed IPs as well. What's interesting, when comparing countries with the highest portion of bot traffic as part of their overall traffic, the total outbound from that country, many countries are very small. For example, Andorra, a tiny principality in Europe that is known as a tax shelter. It isn't part of the European Union, so it has no obligation to share data that it stores. Thus, attackers utilize the servers that are located in Andorra. This is our conclusion here, to launch bot attacks. Other countries in the top 5 there are Uruguay, Russian Federation, Thailand, and China. Most bots were programmed to take advantage of common internet browsers. With the shift to mobile apps, we see more and more bots that are tailored to attack mobile applications. Think of the gaming industry, for instance, that suffers from digital fraud, rewards scraping, and denial of service. Credential stuffing attack on a mobile banking app, which isn't always equally protected as the website is. No need to mention again the e-commerce and retail that make a substantial amount of revenue from their mobile app and can be really hurt by bots disrupting the product availability, or even competitors that are scraping pricing information in parallel. As the world is moving from user to application-based communication to many application-to-application or machine-to-machine communication and data transactions, such as IoT devices is a great example for it. And in order to utilize available technologies better, the primary channel of data transactions today is APIs. Hackers are already there, targeting the APIs more and more with malicious bots. And what we see here is the increase in the portion of bot attacks to APIs and to mobile phones or mobile applications in 2019 compared to 2018. As protection technologies make progress, and bot management is now officially a niche or a market segment, and there are technologies that have been built to do just that, businesses are better equipped every year to stop bot attacks. Cyber criminals now leverage cutting-edge technologies to bypass these solutions, mostly the conventional detection heuristics, and deploy more sophisticated capabilities of bad bots. In 2019, cyber attackers prefer distributed bots that mimic human behavior over multiple sessions when carrying out automated attacks. As we saw in the previous example, they can rotate the user agent, the IP address, and even the device fingerprint. For example, 38 of the bad bots that are used in account takeover attacks are classified as such, as distributed bots. So again, usually you would find account takeover in financials or e-commerce, sometimes government and healthcare, where the reward or the data that is stored is very luxurious, and therefore there are some protections in place. This is why we see that that doesn't stop the cyber criminals, and they just create more sophisticated bots, more sophisticated behaviors that will deceive the security solution. Bots have evolved significantly since the days of simple scripting tools that use the command line interfaces. The bots are programmed, as mentioned, to mimic human behavior when interacting with a website or an application, to move the mouse, even if it's a mobile device, tap and swipe, they follow a certain navigation between pages that a human would, and generally try to simulate real visitors to evade the security systems. Here we see the distribution and the growth in the usage of utilization of sophisticated bots compared to the simpler types. Let's look at a couple of industries. So for bird's eye view, bad bots are present across nearly all verticals. Some industries collect data that is more compelling to cyber criminals and naturally attract more bad bots than others. The industries that cyber criminals are most likely to attack for a monetary reward, financial gain, are e-commerce, travel, and financial services. Companies in these verticals need to be more cautious and implement stricter security measures that can deal with this growing level of sophistication. We will look at a couple. E-commerce, the highest, where there is the highest proportion of advanced bad bots. Since every disruption affects revenue, most e-commerce companies invest heavily in protecting their applications and against bots as well. For a good reason, that is. As we see that they actually force the attackers to use more distributed, more sophisticated bots. So we recognize among the e-commerce customers that there are more attacks by mutating bots within the total bad bot activity for these verticals. This allows attackers to overcome or bypass conventional protections that are based on or rely on deterministic rules and even some behavioral profiling that isn't big enough to produce correlations between different violations and events. Again, the big data here is very important. Travel and hospitality organizations such as airlines, transportation, hotel chains rely heavily on online purchases. Cyber criminals target their sites with attacks that mainly use human-like and distributed mutating bots as well to bypass the security tools that have IP-based or even device fingerprinting measures, and again, pointing at the limitations of some web application firewalls and firewalls or IPS in bot management and bot protection. Now, obviously, this industry has a very tough year, 2020. All the ones that we mentioned, airlines, transportation, hotel chain, and they have to be even more cognizant of bots taking advantage of their business and making sure that they have a right solution that will block the bad bots while providing minimal rate of false positives. In other words, allowing real users and real partners to approach the applications and make some business. So the ROI of a bot management solution for these industries this year is even more important than ever. Let's look now into a couple of bot attacks on our customers. This is of a credit union provider, where the perpetrators launched a large-scale account takeover attack that lasted 15 days. We can see the numbers of bot hits peaking at 87,000 with 18,000 unique signatures. Analyzing the attack, let's look at the sample of 5 signatures. So the top 2 here attack the login or authentication API constantly, every 2 hours and every 6 hours, with 800 and 1100 hits respectively. So 800 hits within 2 hours, every 2 hours, and 1100 hits every 6 hours. The third and fourth bot here were low and slow attacks. Not only they tried going under the radar with 6 hits per hour, number 3 here, and 5 hits every 10 minutes. These bots could mimic human behavior as well. So that is, very operating at a very low rate, mimicking human behavior. This is very hard to catch. The fifth bot, the one at the bottom, is a continuous attack on the login page throughout the day with an average of 500 hits every hour from distributed IPs and multiple user agents, again, to evade the detection system and get through. The second case is of a global automated testing provider, which noticed that conversion rate figures don't add up. So they look at their performance, and they saw that something in the chart doesn't make sense. That was the first point where they suspected that something is going on. Then, when they investigated, they noticed that there was a scraping attack with the intent of scraping content and reselling it. Exams, these are exams, online exams in this case, reselling it in the black market. So they noticed that the charts are skewed, and the investigation led them to understand the attack or the event, and they sought a solution. So the cyber criminals in this case created fake user IDs to log into the platform and perform the fraudulent activities. They tried stealing content in exams again in different languages, making appointments. Essentially, it's kind of a denial of inventory. If appointment is the inventory, the bots would fill it. So real users cannot make appointments. And then they try to check out. Different sections targeted in a scheduled fashion, you can see here. And then calendar section was targeted the most with over 24,000 bot hits. And during the attack, 1,136 unique bot user IDs were deployed. The detection challenge is not only to block the spoofed IPs, you can do that with a fingerprint, but also with the device fingerprint, but also to block one IP that appears to arrive from multiple device IDs or user agents. So now that we understand the challenge, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we do in this space, and then I'll answer some questions and wish you good health. Investing more and more in all areas of application security to expand the value to our customers. In 2019, Radware acquired ShieldSquare, then a leader in bot management technologies, and still rated #1 in Gartner's Peer Insights platform. You can see the nice quote that we got there with a score of 4.9 out of 5. Highly valuable product, must-have, anti-bot service. The other areas of application security that we invest in are obviously web application firewall and web application protection, API and mobile security, as well as microservices protection. Focusing on we provide a solution to secure applications from malicious bots through automated machine learning algorithms that can accurately detect, track, and block malicious sources with minimal false positives. Or in other words, zero impact on the customer experience. The core technology is patented intent-based deep behavioral analysis, or IDBA in short. IDBA classifies human good and bad bot traffic based on the intent. So the whole point in the whole bot management world is to understand what is the intent of the bot. Scraping from a legitimate and illegitimate source will look the same. The idea is to understand whether the intent is good or bad. To do that, we mentioned the big data before. We deploy semi-supervised deep learning algorithms to cluster behaviors according to common patterns. And to optimize the detection accuracy, the IDBA engine also relies on data from billions of transactions of web properties, making correlations between activities and violations. And in addition, continuous research to provide the highest protection and secure user access to the app. Also, there is a variety of deployment options that allows zero impact on the application stack. So we do in a very high level. Since bots are used, it can impact the compliance folks, the people, of course, steal data. It can impact revenue and skew marketing analytic tools. So it is only imperative that the flexibility in deployment options is provided. Website integration will look different than integration into the DevOps ecosystem. Others may prefer a software as a service or an SDK for a mobile app. And this is very important because at the end of the day, the solution is a business enabler and not a showstopper. So we do allow different integration options with web server plugins, CDN plugins, mobile SDKs, JavaScript tag, and also a cloud service that combines both our web application firewall and bot manager in a unified solution, unified dashboard, unified user experience, and so on. Point is the different mitigation options and the ability to control the bots. There is a variety of needs between different businesses and sometimes in the same industry and sometimes even different functions within the same company. For example, what we just mentioned, marketing, security, DevOps, compliance. And we allow getting a handle of the situation by providing granular analytics and customization options so you can ensure optimal customer experience. So what you see here are just a few selected charts where you can choose the captcha difficulty. You can look at the intent analysis. What did the bad bot actually try to do? Account takeover, scraping, and so on. You can choose the responses like allow block, obviously, but also throttle, feed fake data, and others. And also, it is very important to remember, don't forget the good bots. You should have the visibility into the good bots because the good bots are enabling your business. They are accelerating your productivity and should be let through. I'd like to bring your attention to our free assessment tool, the Bad Bot Analyzer. A simple web server log analysis will give you an understanding of the scope of the problem at your own web properties. You can then sign up for it on our website, and I will contact you to give you that free evaluation of bot traffic. So thank you very much for your precious time so far. I'll take a few questions. First question, what do you mean by behavioral analysis? What are the threat indicators you're looking at? So we're looking at dozens of indicators, as mentioned, also correlating between events and violations and activities, but it really depends. The algorithm will perform will do two things. It will perform a Turing test, but also collect or compare information such as signatures, device IDs, IP ranges, and data about the browser itself, what kind of browser, what is the device, what fonts are they using, and then time between events, the navigation flow of the bot within the app, and so on and so forth. So many indicators, because again, at the end, we want to be the most accurate and not block any real user or any good bot. Second question, what are the threats you see during the COVID-19 crisis? So there are a few. We talked about the travel industry that is suffering. What we see now the most is bots spreading spam, especially malicious links for phishing. Also bots that are spreading fake information in social networks, so this is a very big challenge. Bots that are scraping data or prices or even equipment, such as respiratory masks, for example, to be sold at the second-hand market or the black market. And obviously, whatever bad intent the human has, bots can scale it up. The question, you didn't mention credential stuffing. Isn't that attack performed by bots? Yes, this is part of the account takeover family of attacks. Credential stuffing is where known credentials from a leaked database are being used by a bot to try and compromise that user account. For example, I took someone's credentials from the LinkedIn database, and then I'm trying it to access their bank account and other accounts with it. So this is different than credential cracking, or in other words, aka brute force, where you try to crack the password. In credential stuffing, you know you're accessing the app with known credentials, and then there is a real challenge for that business that has to know that this is an unauthorized access, even though the credentials are legitimate. I don't see other questions at this point. So again, I would like to thank you for your precious time. I hope to see you again soon. We will do more webinars and keep in close touch. For more information, please contact us at radware.com. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.